And welcome back to Sports the NEMO Way, the Atlanta Braves episode. So, as you can imagine, we'll be talking about the Atlanta Braves Mount Rushmore. So, yes, and all five of us are here today. So, good on us for showing up to our own podcast.
Yeah, raise the roof.
And I don't think I have any other housekeeping to get to, so let's get started. Drew, who is your number 4 member of your Braves Mount Rushmore?
John Schmaltz.
Old John Smoltz. I like old John Smoltz, but he's not on my list.
Didn't make mine either.
Yeah, I don't have him.
No.
Well, Drew, you're a one all by yourself.
That's fine. So he's in the Hall of Fame. He's got a Cy Young, 8-time All-Star. He has the World Series, Silver Slugger, and NLCS MVP. He has Pitcher Relief Award from the start of his career. His time with the Braves, 210 wins, 147 losses. He had a 3.2 ERA. He had 3,000 strikeouts as a pitcher with the Braves. He was one of their big 3 pitchers during the 90s in their time, winning during that time. When he finally he led the league in innings pitched a couple times. He led the league in strikeouts twice as well. So he had a streak here of like 215, 208, and then he had an off year of 113. Then he had 193, 276, 241. So about like a 5-6 year span there, he became one of their dominant pitchers and one of the dominant pitchers in the league. I mean, they had multiple guys on their team winning Cy Youngs, and I think he was the second best pitcher probably on their team because I have the other one later. So I just figured at number 4, probably their most dominant time of team success, I would say, even though he only led the one championship. I feel like he played a big part in those. So, and he won awards. So I just figured.
I think he's the only player in baseball history with 200 wins and 150 saves.
Yeah.
So when you said he was the second best pitcher on the team, did you mean on his team or on the overall Braves history?
His team.
Okay.
His team.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you. Okay. I just wanted to clarify.
Oh, yep. So that's why I have him at 4. So.
Okay.
Good deal. All right. Well, anybody else have anything to add on Smoltz before we move on?
Yep. Yeah.
All right. Well, Wade, who's your number 4?
I have Maddox at 4.
I have Maddox at 2.
I have Maddox at 3.
I have Maddox at 3.
I don't have Maddox at all.
All right. Oh, we're kind of all over the place with him. Well, I mean, he was probably the team's best player during that dominant run in the 90s. He won 3 Cy Young Awards with the Braves. Won 10 Gold Gloves there. 6-time All-Star with the Braves. Was there, I believe, from like 93 to 03. I mean, yeah. I mean, he was probably the best player in all of baseball for a large chunk of that. I mean, obviously with 3 Cy Youngs. And in those 11 seasons, he had 5 top 15 finishes in the MVP, not just the Cy Young. So I thought that was kind of a cool stat. And got 194 victories with the Braves and had an ERA of 2.6 while he was in Atlanta.
I guess here's the way I looked at it was Greg Maddux is probably on the Mount Rushmore for starting pitchers. So I feel like he had to be on a Mount Rushmore, and this is where he played the longest of his career. But the holdup for his Braves case, I guess, is the fact that he played so many years away from Atlanta. More than half of his career away from Atlanta.
Yeah. Did he pitch for the Cubs twice?
Yeah.
I thought so. Okay.
Yes, he did. A lot of good it did him.
Is that where he got his first Cy Young though?
Yeah. You don't see that very often. Somebody win a Cy Young and on a different team the next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't happen very often.
Well, I mean, he won 4 straight Cy Youngs. So, I mean, he won the Cy Young, went to a different team, and won 3 straight. So,
I mean, was there a better pitcher than him in the 90s. I mean, his competition's what, Clemens and Randy Johnson?
Probably.
I don't know. I think I'd take him over Randy Johnson in the 90s.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, Clemens goes through a period of time in the 90s where everybody thought his career was over.
And then he took
That's
steroids.
true.
Yeah, and then he got juiced up and was really good again. But
So I think what we're saying is Maddox is the best pitcher of the 90s. I think is what we're saying.
Kind of looks like it.
and he had one of the coolest commercials ever with the Chicks Dig the Long Ball commercials. Remember those, Uncle Doug? With him and
Yeah.
Tom Glavine?
Yeah.
Where it's like it's them trying to hit home runs because chicks dig the long ball.
Did you see that prank he did on Chris Bryant?
Yes,
That's a really funny one.
it was very
It
good.
was all over YouTube or whatever.
They put like a disguise on, like a beard and longer hair and like and glasses and stuff. And Chris Bryant is out taking BP. I can't remember if the guy was like, "Oh, the guy that's supposed to throw you BP, live BP, didn't show up," or if they're like, "Oh, he got hurt," or whatever it is, and he's something like that. And Maddox is like over sweeping or something. He's like, "I'll throw you BP."
I think he's a camera guy.
Oh, maybe he's the camera. He's something
He's like
off
the
to the
audio
side.
guy or something
Yeah.
like that.
And he's like, "I'll do it." And Brian's like, "Yeah, I don't know about that." And he's like, "No, seriously, I can do it." And finally, Chris Bryant kind of reluctantly agrees, and then Maddox is like striking him out and like doing all this stuff. And finally, he shows him who he is later. But
Well, when he's kind of just warming up, there's a really funny part. Maddox like asks Chris Bryant after he just throws us a couple easy ones and lets him hit it. He's like, "Do you want me to mix it up a little bit?" And Chris Bryant's like, "You know what? You're doing pretty good, yeah." And then he throws like a gnarly curveball, and Chris Bryant whiffs. And then Chris Bryant turns around and looks at the other camera guy and goes, "He's good." Just like, oh.
yeah, it was good. Forgot about that one. So 4 of the 5 of us had Maddox.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ray, what are you up to? What are you up to?
I don't know, dude. We'll find out. I mean, it's whatever.
Never know.
No.
Just a little wheeling and dealing probably at the end.
All right. Well, Uncle Doug, do you have a 4 left?
I do.
Who is your 4?
My number 4 is Chipper Jones.
Oh, he's my number 2.
He's my number 2.
That's my 3.
I don't have him.
What?
I don't have Chipper Jones.
Oh boy, this episode's
Oh,
gonna
what
I'm
are you
at-
up to? Over
Nah,
there?
I was I'm asking you what you just that's Ray. Like, what's going on
Oh
here?
boy, this is gonna get
yeah.
crazy. Were you the one that defended Chipper in our?
No, he was
I
I forget.
Robinson.
Yeah.
Good old
Well-
Brooks Robinson.
So, obviously, he's in the Hall of Fame. Got an MVP, 8 All-Stars, World Series, 2-time Silver Slugger, batting title, 2,700 hits, 468 home runs, batting average of 303. So,
On base percentage over 400.
yep. And he was in the debate for our greatest third baseman of all time. So
Yeah.
I felt like he was pretty
He's
solid.
beloved by Braves fans.
Oh, he is very much so.
Yeah, very much so. He was I always really liked Chipper growing up.
And he spent his whole time in Atlanta too, right?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
19 years.
19 years, yeah.
Big old lifer.
Yep. All right. Well, again, 4 of us had Chipper. Ray, do you have a 4 left?
I do.
All right. Who do you have,
I
sir?
have Phil Necro.
Oh, Mr. Knuckleball.
Yeah. I did not have Phil Necro, but I did consider him.
Yeah.
See, 5-time All-Star. He is in the Hall of Fame. 5 Gold Gloves. ERA title. Let's see, 318 wins. 3.35 ERA. And let's see, he played in Atlanta for 21 years. But he played over that. He played, let's see, at least 26 years. It's almost 3 decades of playing in the MLB. And he's
Yeah.
kind of an older guy. He started in '64, but I mean, I thought I'd give him a shot.
I mean, he meets the counting stats requirements for pitchers. He has 300 wins. He has 3,000 strikeouts. Like, he has the ERA in the threes. Like, he meets most of the requirements for a Hall of Fame pitcher.
I thought since LeBron went so far as 21 years, Phil Niekro went way over that. So, that was a strong consideration.
Every week. Always bringing up LeBron.
In the most derogatory way possible.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anything else on Phil Niekro before we move on?
No.
All right. Well, I still have my 4.
Dang.
Okay.
I have Warren Spahn.
Warren Spahn's my 3.
He's my 2.
He's my 2.
Don't have him. Oh, jeez, another 4.
Here we go. Okay.
What are you thinking,
What do you mean, Drew?
Well, Warren Spahn
Apparently,
is
I'll have a. What are you thinking?
he's a Hall of Famer. He won a Cy Young. He has 17 All-Stars. He has a World Series, and he has 3 ERA titles. He played 20 years for the Braves.
Yeah.
Not in Atlanta.
Not the Atlanta Braves.
Actually, I saw this stat earlier. It's not somebody we've brought up. He may still be, I guess, but Matthews, the Hall of Fame third baseman for the Braves, he played in all 3 cities the Braves have been in.
Oh.
So that's really cool. Can you imagine that, though, having to your franchise moves 3 times while you're playing for him? That's great. Or at least moves twice, I guess. But anyway, Warren Spahn led the league in wins 8 times. He won or led the league in ERA 3 times. I think I mentioned that already. Led the league in complete games 9 times. Led the league in innings 4 times. He led the league in strikeouts 4 straight times. And like I said, he has a Cy Young. One of the other things with him is he has 5 top 3 Cy Young finishes, but the first half of his career they didn't give away the Cy Young, so he wasn't able to win it for a long time.
I read that he had it was like an insane 12 top 15 finishes in the MVP.
I remember seeing that.
Yeah, it was something crazy. It was some crazy number like that.
Looks like 12 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that's pretty insane.
That's
for
very
a pitcher.
impressive. Yeah.
12 top 15
And-
MVP finishes.
And let's not forget this: he missed 3 years for World War II.
Right.
Yeah, and he ended up with what? It wasn't like 360 some wins.
363 wins.
That's
with a 3.09 ERA and 2,500 strikeouts.
I mean, he's up there in elite category in wins.
Yeah, he is.
Like, that's
He is.
he's up there with the top tier guys. We're talking about one of the top dogs.
And he spent the years 22, 23, and 24 in military service.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're talking about some years that he really could have
Sure.
been a good player.
I don't think they were necessarily some great teams either, because I remember hearing the story about there had some saying or song or whatever, and it was Spain and then the other pitcher, I think his name was Zahn or something like that, and they would always chant Spain and Zahn and pray for rain. After those two, they didn't have much.
That's funny.
I would say that these Braves teams he played for weren't super good because his win percentage is only 59% with these elite numbers.
Right. So think if he'd have played on a stronger team, how
Yeah.
many wins he might have had.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
But yes, very very dominant guy. He did play in the 40s and 50s and 60s, so it's been a little while, but very dominant pitcher. All right, that's everybody's number 4s. Who has a 3 left?
I do.
Go ahead, Willard.
Well, I don't have Chipper because I put Eddie Matthews as my.
Oh,
number
sorry,
three.
I guess I brought him up earlier, but
It's
Okay.
all right. I mean, it just, yeah, like Alex already said, he played in all three cities, which is pretty cool. He was with the Braves franchise for 15 seasons. In those 15 seasons, he was with just the Braves. He was 7 home runs shy of 500. His career was over shortly after that, and he did achieve the 500 home run club after he left Atlanta, but he got 7 away with just the Braves franchise. Led the league in home runs multiple times, base on balls 4 or 5 times, on base percentage once. Yeah, he was on the one of their World Series team or 2 World Series teams, I believe. Was a 12-time All-Star. Yeah.
well, I will say this: I did leave Matthews off, even though I originally thought I was going to put him on. But the Braves, even though they don't have like a ton of World Series like the Yankees or a team like that, you were gonna leave off some really great players with this
They've got
with this
a
franchise.
lot of really
yeah.
good players.
Yeah, because I there was a few guys where I was like, I mean, I didn't put Smoltz on, I didn't put Glavine on, I didn't put Eddie Matthews on, I didn't put Dale Murphy on,
I didn't put
Right.
Necro on.
yeah, I didn't put Phil Niekro on.
Yeah.
Well,
Like-
here's the crazy part. Like on some of when I was doing a little research, and like some of the lists I was looking at, like someone like Andrew Jones, who had like 10 Gold Gloves and like 5 Silver Sluggers and led the league in home runs and RBIs, like Drew said earlier, like he was like number 10 on some lists.
Yeah.
Talking about
yeah.
talking about a guy who won 10 straight Gold Gloves and he hit over 50 home runs in a season before. Like we're talking about, he was a top dog.
If you put Andrew Jones on the Rays, he'd be number 1.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, he
Exactly.
probably would.
Like
Like
some of these franchises have so many good players.
yeah.
And it's just
Seeing him at number 10 was just shocking.
I mean,
Like it was.
Uncle Doug, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but Dale Murphy would probably be on the short list of best players of the 80s.
Oh yeah. Dale Murphy was great.
Yeah.
And like I said, like you just said, if he'd been on some of these other teams, he'd be at the top of some of the other teams.
Yeah.
And beloved, Atlanta loved Dale Murphy.
Or if Greg Maddux would have stayed in Chicago, maybe we'd be talking more about Glavine or more about Smoltz or,
Right.
whatever the case may be. I mean, just a slight shuffling of a few things could have really played a large role in some of this.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, we had a little tangent there. But, Wade, were you done talking about Eddie Matthews?
I mean, yeah. Much more to add,
And you were the only one with Eddie, huh?
I guess.
All right. Well, anybody else have a 3 left?
No,
no.
Does anybody have a 2 left?
no,
No.
And I assume we all have a 1 left.
yes,
Yeah.
All right. So, Hammer and Hank.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
Yes, old Hank Aaron is everybody's unanimous number 1, which I think is probably should be a given.
Yeah.
I don't know too many people that are like, you know what, Hank Aaron actually sucked.
Overrated.
I'm sure we could find someone.
No, I don't. I'll be honest with you. I think you could make a case for Hank Aaron being overrated, but not to the point of like he wasn't good. Like you could say like, well, he's not a top 5 player of all time, maybe, but like not a case of like, well, he's not top 25. You know what I mean? Anyway, Hank Aaron is he played 21 years in Atlanta. Long time. He's the all-time leader in RBIs and total bases. He also is a Hall of Famer. He has an MVP. He has 25 All-Star appearances. Yes, you can say that's more than years he played because it is.
More than LeBron.
Well, that's also true.
He's
He won
coming
a-
for it. He's coming for it, right?
He won a World Series. He
Probably
won
did.
3 Gold Gloves and 2 batting titles. He also has 755 home runs, and depending on who you talk to, he might be the all-time home run leader.
Right.
If you're
I
talking
mean,
to
that's your GOAT argument right there. He has the most home runs, the most RBIs. I think he has like the most total bases. He has like third or fourth most hits. Like,
He has 3,000
Yeah.
hits and 755 home runs.
Right. That's
Like, it's insane. And the most RBIs ever.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's up there in doubles. And, like, it's just all
well, he
just
played
crazy.
all those years, and his batting average is still over 300.
Yeah. 305. Yeah.
So
That's pretty legit.
I view him as, like, the Kareem of the MLB. You knew for, like, they had, like, those phenomenal peak seasons where they were obviously great, but they were just remarkably, durably, consistently awesome for just, like, 20 years.
yeah,
It's just, like, year in, year out, you're going to have this super reliable, durable guy that was going to go out there and give you good to elite production for 20 years straight, no matter what. I think
that is the key to it. He was remarkably consistent, like Wade said, because his peak seasons, although very good, don't touch the peak seasons of some of the other guys we're going to talk about as being all-time greats. Like, his peak seasons are not on the level of a guy like Ted Williams or Babe Ruth or Stan Musial or I'm sure I'm forgetting some, Barry Bonds even. We can discuss why that is, at the time. But what?
But he was just good to great.
Yeah, I would say 20
constantly.
years into his career, he batted .327 with 40 home runs and 100 RBIs.
Like, that's insane. That's insanity. Like, that's like Alex saying, like, you're right. That's not like the greatest season I've ever heard of, but it's a fucking good ass.
It is. It is a very good
and to
season.
do that 20 years in, that's amazing. Like, that's why I view him and, like, Kareem as, like, equivalent to each other in their sports. Like, Kareem was out there winning championships and finals MVPs and stuff well into his 30s. Consistently just had the hook shot. He was going for it.
I think he only has one MVP.
I mean, you got to think when he played, though, and who was around. Now we're talking about, Willie Mays.
Willie Mays, yeah. Who has, 3 MVPs?
Well, Willie Mays' teammate who won, like, 1 or 2.
Willie McCovey.
Well, we just covered, like, 5 MVPs right there. The guy from the Pirates played around then.
Clemente.
I'm sure there's a Yankee.
Mantle or
Mickey Mantle
or DiMaggio. He may have overlapped with both of them.
Right, probably.
So, I mean,
And he would overlap with Ted Williams. He would have, he would overlap with Mike Schmidt.
that's, like, the best time of
Stan
baseball.
Musial.
Yeah, Stan Musial. Yeah,
How late did Musial play?
Played into the 60s, is it?
Oh, I'm sure he played
Yeah.
into the 60s.
yeah. And Aaron's rookie season was 54.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
So-
Well, he play. How long does he play? Was it
76.
20? That's
76,
nuts.
23 years.
That's crazy. I knew it was a long time.
And we've talked about this before, but when did they quit doing the you can only win one MVP thing?
I think that was in the 20s or
20s or
30s.
20s,
though.
30s.
It was like
Yeah.
mid.
That was more like,
Yeah, it was mid Babe Ruth. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
and all that.
So
Yeah.
it would have been a decent time. I just think he was just covered an insane era of baseball, and
Oh, yeah.
there was just a lot of all-time greats right there. I'm sure we're forgetting handfuls.
Oh, I'm sure we are. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Handfuls.
Well, would the Big Red Machine be going in Cincy?
Well, Big Red
By the
Machine's in
end.
the 70s.
By
So,
the
I mean, he
end.
would have played for a part of that at least.
Yeah, maybe.
And the Big Red Machine won what? 3 or 4 MVPs? Because Morgan won one, Rose won one, and did Bench win 1 or 2?
Two,
I wanna say he has won
two.
one.
I think he won
he's got
two.
more than one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
That's how we're just.
Well, yeah, he would have crossed over with Yaz, wouldn't he?
yeah. He would
Yeah,
play
so,
with
I mean-
Yaz, yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's another one. I don't know.
We've probably named a bunch of them.
I mean, we're naming off top dogs.
yeah,
Like,
we are.
Like, we're naming off, like, top dudes.
We're naming off a bunch of guys that are going to make Mount Rushmore
Yes.
for their franchises. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, I think we've pretty much established that Hank Aaron's a beast. So he is our one unanimous player. So he is in. And then we have 6 guys for 3 spots. We have 3 guys with 4 and 3 guys with 1.
That's
nuts. So we all just matching up to a 4. All of us that have a 1.
Sounds like a plan to me.
Yeah. So, okay. So I'll go ahead and take Necro, and I'll go to the Maddox vote.
Okay. I'll go to
Maddox then.
Chipper from Eddie Matthews.
I'll go from Schmaltz to Warren.
There we go. It's over.
Done.
Dun, 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 dun.
All right. Well, that was one of the simpler times we've ever had. That's almost too quick.
I feel like our what if we can talk about for a while.
Hey, pick between the 7 Hall of Famers. It's okay. We got 4 pretty good ones. It's all
We
right.
did. So the listeners are sure our 4 Mount Rushmore members for the Atlanta Braves are Greg Maddux, Chipper Jones, Warren Spahn, and Hank Aaron.
Which is my list, yeah.
It's also my list.
All right. Good
I'll go
job.
off.
Yes. Yeah, because neither one of us had to make a move.
That's right.
That's true, yeah. That's very true. How's that feel there, Drew?
You guys aren't even close to what I did in football. that was greatness week in and week out.
Greatness. Oh,
I
my
showed
goodness.
up. There was weeks I didn't show up and I still got all 4 guys.
That was pretty impressive, Drew, I gotta say.
All right. Well, that will end our Atlanta Braves Mount Rushmore talk and move us into what if. And our what if is, what if the Braves' dominant 90s run ended with them winning all the World Series and not the Yankees? What if they won 5 and made 6 World Series and not the Yankees, and the Yankees won 1? You know, they switched spots. We thought this would be interesting. So I guess we can start with the obvious side here with the Braves. What does that do to Maddox and Glavine and Smoltz legacies?
Right. And Chipper Jones.
And Chipper Jones, yeah.
You know.
Wow.
Goes from choke artist to, I mean, pretty high stature. I
I
mean,
mean, you get all those World Series, they're going way up.
yeah.
Well, if you want to start the year in '95 is when they win their World Series in '95,
Right.
and then we can about everyone is there by then. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess they kind of get there in '91, and that's when the winning streak starts. But '95 is when they're all there. They're probably all established at this point. So '95 they win. The next year in '96 they lose to the Yankees in the World Series, and then the next year, this will load. They lose to the Marlins in the NLCS.
Mm.
And then '98, they lose to the Padres in the NLCS. Then in '99, they lose to the Yankees in the World Series again.
Mm.
And then in 2000, they lose in the Division Series. And then I think people start leaving here pretty quick.
Well, let me ask this before I start speaking about it. The other day when we went over why they lost one of those World Series against the Yankees, did we do that on air or off air?
We did it off
Off
air.
air.
We did it off air, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
It was a perfect what if.
Yeah.
It was, yes.
We just did it on accident, didn't record it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so everybody knows what I'm talking about. The other day we were talking about why did the Braves lose in the playoffs? Because if you have 3 aces and you have guys like Chipper Jones, Andrew Jones, Fred McGriff, Andres Galarraga, and your lineup, how do you lose in the playoffs? And I think we were split up in the room over who choked, the offense or the pitchers. And we were like, well, let's get to the bottom of it. And we went to we went to Google and looked at the stats from their playoff run and their World Series run. And one of the 2 years they played the Yankees in the World Series. Was it 96?
Yeah.
And it turned out that it was the bullpen. We were all wrong.
Like, it was fucking terrible.
Yeah, it was.
The Braves outscored them through the whole series.
Yeah, so
They beat them 26-18. So they scored more runs in the series. I mean, one game was, like 11-2.
And all 3 aces had phenomenal performances.
Yeah.
Between the aces, I think they gave up 5 runs in all their
It
starts.
was like 5 runs and 6 starts or something like
So
that.
they gave up 5 of the 18 runs in the series. The rest of it came from the bullpen.
And there was one 4th starter that
Yeah,
pitched
the 4th
one game.
starter, but he went like 6 innings and 3 runs. It wasn't
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it was.
But he only pitched one game, right?
One
he pitched
game, yeah.
Which, again, when you have a 3-man rotation, I don't know why we're.
Yeah.
Yeah, playing games with the 4th guy.
But it came out of the bullpen that year.
So I guess here's the question, because I'll start with this anyway. We just talked about Maddox being, an all-time great pitcher and probably the best pitcher of the 90s. What does it do for his legacy, if anything, if he has 4 more World Series, where he is essentially the ace of the team?
I think the way you remember how Clemens used to be viewed before steroids ruined his reputation?
Yeah.
You remember how he was viewed?
Mm-hmm.
I think that'd be Maddox. Like Roger Clemens was like the modern, like this era's GOAT pitcher. Like modern baseball's GOAT pitcher. Like that's how he was viewed before from a lot of people. Not everybody. Everybody has different opinions, and baseball's history is so deep with players. You can make arguments for so many guys, but lots of people were on the Roger Clemens GOAT train, or at least modern baseball GOAT pitcher train before the steroids.
If you take steroids out of it, let's act like none of us know that Roger Clemens took steroids. Look at what he accomplished.
He has like 7 Cy Youngs?
He has 7 Cy Youngs.
Yeah.
He has an ERA in the 3s. He has like 4,000 strikeouts. He has like over 300 wins.
I think he's well over 300.
Yeah, I think he's like 350 or something.
Yeah.
So like Clemens accomplished pretty much everything there is to accomplish. He won. How many World Series did he win? Does it just win one, or did he win multiple with the Yankees?
It says 2 altogether.
Did he get one in Toronto though?
No, they weren't very good when he was. He won 2 Cy Youngs in Toronto, but he didn't.
Yeah,
They weren't good.
Did he get one somewhere else though?
Boston didn't win one, and he was in Houston. They didn't win one either.
He lost.
Yeah, Toronto, Houston, or Boston. He would have never been there for those.
Was that the only place he went?
So
Yeah,
So the Yankees?
He had to be there for 2 of the Yankees. He's probably there for 99 and 2000. They win. I think they went. Yeah, they beat the Yankees, and then they.
I thought 2000.
he's on the Yankees in '99 and 2000. Yeah.
That's who. Yeah, because they won both those.
Wow. Well, there you go.
Nice.
But so yeah, if you're talking about a guy that was the ace of 5 World Series teams plus all the stats that we talked about earlier of 4 Cy Youngs and 8 All-Stars and 18 Gold Gloves and 4 ERA titles. By the way, we talked about how great Smoltz and Glavine were. He's almost a full point lower in ERA than those 2 guys.
Yeah.
What's his like total career ERA?
3.1.
That's pretty nice.
But his Braves ERA
It's 2.6, I think.
is 2.6, yeah.
Yeah, I think I was reading that on my phone. Yeah, it's pretty nasty. I'm more of a Smoltz guy than I am Glavine because I think it's really, really awesome the thing that he was in. He went from being like a top flight elite starter and then became the best closer in the game for a couple years, and then went back to being a good starter. Like that's a rare ability. Not everyone can do that.
I agree with you. It's really, really cool. And I had this conversation with somebody a while back. I can't remember who it was about Smoltz's Hall of Fame case. Because I was like, if you're looking at just his like numbers, you'll probably say Smoltz isn't a Hall of Famer. But when you look at the uniqueness of him doing both, he's clearly a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I think if you look at the starters numbers and the closing numbers, I think he's easily a Hall of Famer. But he's like
he's not good. He's not good enough in one or the other to be.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
right.
saying? He's not. Yeah. His starter numbers are not good enough to be a Hall of Famer. His relievers numbers are not good enough to be a Hall of Famer. But doing together, you're like, wow, that was pretty crazy.
Because like his starter numbers are like borderline.
Yeah,
they're like borderline Hall of Fame. Like if he was never a closer, he would have been like a guy that floated close to getting into Hall of Fame, maybe squeaked in one year. When you throw in the closing stuff, then he obviously got in, which I thought he was really neat. Because I don't think everyone could adapt to that difference in pitching. Because there's a big difference. I know closing's obviously easier. You come in and get mainly 3 outs, but it's a different situation, and you got to pitch differently.
The pressure's totally different.
Yeah.
I think Smoltz was better for that than either one of these other 2, Maddox or Glavine, because closers are power pitchers for the most part.
Well, and he not only threw decently hard, but he had a splitter.
He threw a splitter. Yeah.
A lot of closers have like one nasty pitch that even if you know it's coming, it's hard to hit. Like Rivera or Hoffman, or like the guys like that. Like, so I think that was important too.
Yeah, what made Maddox so great was he threw 5 pitches. It wasn't that he threw one that was like so filthy you were like, holy crap. He had 5 different pitches.
And had elite command of
and just pinpoint accuracy.
Yeah, his command is what
you're not a starting pitcher in the majors at 88 and don't have great command. Like you wouldn't be able to do it.
His command was godly.
Yeah.
Like what he accomplished with his, like you said, throwing 88 miles an hour, like topping out at 88, like it's kind of insane.
All right, so I guess I'm gonna hit this a step further because we're gushing over Maddox, but would we be saying Greg Maddox is the greatest pitcher of all time if he's the ace on 4 more World Series teams?
I think he's in the discussion. Yes.
He's got to be in the discussion. He's got 4 more World Series
when you look
titles.
at like their losses stuff, I've been going through some of it. He only gives up like 2 or 3 runs a series.
Yeah,
and he loses some of these games. Like he loses games 2-1.
Yeah.
Or like I don't know. Like I would say he's definitely in a discussion for him like that.
Well, I mean, earlier, even with the way it is now, didn't you say you'd put him on the Mount Rushmore?
I did,
pitchers?
yeah.
So I mean, that right there is, I think
you're talking about a guy already that has a low 3.1 ERA with 355 wins. I mean, that's pretty elite company, right? And for a guy that wasn't a strikeout guy, really, he has over 300,000 strikeouts too.
Yeah. What are his innings pitched? I bet there's ginormous.
5,000.
For a guy that pitched somewhat recently, that's insane.
Yeah,
that's nasty. What other like recent pitchers got into 5,000?
I don't know how many pitchers got to 5,000. Period. That's a lot of innings.
That's a lot of innings.
That's a lot.
And then we were talking about earlier about him doing that commercial, like still being able to throw like now.
I mean,
like there's some people who like can't throw nowadays and probably only did like half of what he did.
Yeah. Some people are just made to throw.
Some people are made to sit in a chair.
Well, Cy Young threw over 7,000 innings.
Oh, jeez.
Well, that's...
But I will say this, Wade. Greg Maddox is 13th all time. And here are the guys ahead of him.
Oh, boy.
Cy Young, who has 2,300 more innings than him, which is crazy. Pud Galvin. I don't know who the hell that is.
Good old Pud. I like me a good old Pud.
Walter Johnson. So again, I don't know Pud, but I'm gonna assume Pud played back in the early times.
Let me look up Pud.
I bet Pud was a rascal.
But we know Cy Young and Walter Johnson did.
Yeah. Look up the player Pud. Don't look up the word Pud.
Yeah, that's true.
Pud Galvin. He played for a lot of different people. Let's see here. Played for Buffalo.
He threw 6,000 innings. So.
He played from 1875 to 1892.
Oh, man.
Why?
Hall of Fame ERA title. He's got an ERA 2.85 for his career.
Good for him.
365 wins, 310 losses, 73 points on WAR.
So wait, he got over 300 in wins and losses?
Yeah.
I like Pud.
His first year in the league,
Pud a lot.
1.1. First year in the league, 1.1 ERA. Cardinals let him go.
Oh, no.
He went to Buffalo.
Uncle Doug, you guys could have had Pud.
Yeah, I guess.
I have a strong feeling Pud's about to be a
Listen
podcast.
to this. 2 years in a row, he won 46 games.
Wow. 46 games?
And he didn't lead the league.
Pud, this rascal.
I mean, this is his wins. Listen to this. 37, 20, 28, 28, 46, 46, 29, 28.
How many did he lose the year he won 46?
29, 22.
46 and 29?
Did he get all these innings in 7 years? Is he just throwing
Holy
every other
cow.
game?
Let me see how many.
That's 75 games.
All right, let me see how many innings did he pitch. He pitched 656 innings and 636 innings.
Was it a 2-man rotation?
This is how he starts his career. 600, 450, 470, 440, 650, 630, 370, 284, 430, 440, 437, 340.
Pud is the legend.
Yes.
Over 600
Dude, look at him.
and
He's a pudge. Look at him.
Let me see.
Got a big old stash.
Oh, he's a beast.
Oh,
Oh,
man.
Pud's my new favorite player. All right. Well, next is Phil Necro, somebody we actually talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Then there's Nolan Ryan.
Okay, that's what
Then
I
we're
said.
back to Gaylord Perry, another really old guy.
Yeah.
Don Sutton, Warren Spahn, who is on our Mount Rushmore. Steve Carlton, who's on the Phillies Mount Rushmore. Grover Alexander, another early 1900s guy. Kid Nicholson, don't know who that is. Tim Keefe, and then Greg Maddux. So, talking about guys that he's definitely the most recent.
Right.
But then you have Nolan Ryan and Steve Carlton, who are 70s, 80s. That maybe. Well, Roland Ryan got in the 90s, but
Well, he started in the 60s and the
Yeah,
90s, so
that's
it's kind
true.
of cheating. Pitched forever.
so yeah, he's definitely the most recent of those guys. There's only a total of 13 guys in history that have 5,000 or more innings.
That's pretty crazy. He's on it.
He's the last one, too. I can't.
Yeah, people. Kershaw ain't touching that.
No.
God.
I wonder who is the active leader.
You think how many Verlander? You think
Oh,
Verlander? got a lot of innings?
it's Zach Greinke.
I can see that.
Oh.
Zach Greinke has 33.89.
I've always kind of liked Greinke.
Yeah.
Verlander's at 33.25.
I'm not shocked by that.
No, he's been around a while.
But you're also talking about two guys that are pitching into their 40s already.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't have much.
Well, look at Greinke's last year. I'm pretty sure he lost a ton of games last year with the Royals. He went like 2-18.
I watched him pitch last year. Last year he went 2-15,
Told you.
yeah, he's about done.
What was his
But
ERA
also, he
though?
plays for the Royals.
5.
Mm.
Verlander, isn't he back on the Astros now?
Yeah.
Going for another ring.
That's what he tried to. He got what?
And then Scherzer has 28.34. He's the third guy active.
I'm surprised he hasn't got there yet. He's getting older too.
Then Kershaw has 27.12. He's about done too.
Yeah.
He's only at 27, really. I feel like he's
He's not been durable over his career,
Yeah.
really.
No.
They've been putting him on a pitch and innings limit for years now.
mm.
Like, they didn't let him throw out of the third or fourth inning for the whole second half of the season last year. He was on a 70 pitch limit.
kind of ridiculous. Might as well not even fucking start him.
And they kept telling us, it's so he'll be fresh for the playoffs. And then he gives up 9 runs in the first inning of a playoff game, and there goes the
That
season.
didn't do him much good.
Anyway, so we've talked very extensively about Maddux. What does it do for Glavine and Smoltz? Two guys that aren't maybe on the level of Maddux pitching wise, but they're still both Hall of Famers. How do we look at those guys? I mean, they're not necessarily the aces, but they're right. I mean, they're very good. They both have Cy Youngs. They both in the Hall of Fame.
All that extra attention that went to Andy Pettitte beyond Tom Glavine.
Yeah.
Say 4 titles can't hurt.
No.
Definitely helps the resume out.
John. Yeah.
They're known for being the dominant trio, but winning. We already know them as that trio, but if they win, I mean, we're probably talking about the single greatest playoff rotation ever.
Yeah.
If they go on to do what they do,
Probably.
I
That's
mean,
true.
that's what they would be remembered for.
So Tom Glavine in Atlanta won a Cy Young. The next year finished second. The next year finished third. And a couple years later finished third. A couple years later won the Cy Young, and 2 years later finished second again. I mean, where do you think Tom Glavine ranks in the all-time left-handers conversation?
I bet he's up there. I mean, I'd have to really stop and think about.
I mean, we pretty
Well,
much
it's
said the
left-handed,
other day here. I don't know if Uncle Doug was here or not in the Phillies episode. Were you here for that episode?
I think that's the one I missed. Isn't it?
Right. I think I made the comment that Steve Carlton was the greatest lefty of all time, And then Wade said, "What about Randy Johnson?" And pretty much we were like, "It has to be one of them."
I know we had a conversation about the two of them. I can't remember if we're talking about lefties or not. But
No, I think I was here for that one.
But
Yeah, he was here because we were all here at some point. Wade left, and I came in. That was that
might have
night.
been that
was
night.
that night.
Mm.
But other than those three, Glavine and Johnson and Carlton, who are we forgetting? All-time lefties.
are there any like old guys that we're not thinking about?
I'm sure there are.
I don't know. There's just it's hard to remember everybody with baseball.
Yeah.
I mean, Randy Johnson's when you first think of all-time great left-handers, that's the one I think of. He's the first guy that
Yeah,
pops in my
I
head.
think of old Randy.
He was the big dog when I was growing up. He's the big lefty I remember.
Lefty Grove, Whitey Ford, Sandy Koufax,
Okay.
there you go.
Warren Spahn, and
Well, maybe Warren Spahn was a beast.
yeah.
I mean, Sandy Koufax is pretty. Yeah. I mean, Whitey Ford was a monster. A lot of great names there.
But again,
Live might be top 5 though. Maybe you can make an argument for him to be top 5. I'd say.
I think you can make an argument for him to be 3.
Think so?
I'm not saying he is 3, but I'm saying like he doesn't have the peak of Koufax, but he did it for 20 fucking years.
Yeah.
Koufax did it for like 9.
Koufax is just. Yeah.
I mean,
I would-
Koufax has like a 5-year run there that is like untouchable.
Maybe the greatest ever.
Yeah, right.
It's yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Could be.
But does it change that conversation or your opinion in that conversation if Glavine has 5 World Series to go with his
I mean-
2 Cy Youngs?
It definitely helps his argument.
Yeah,
Definitely helps.
like I said, it can't hurt.
No.
It can't.
Yeah.
Hey. Yeah.
But again, let's look at somebody Wade mentioned earlier. Why is Whitey Ford looked at as so great?
Played for the Yankees.
He played for the Yankees and won World Series.
Yep.
And not that he wasn't a good pitcher. He was a good pitcher. But I mean, like, would we be talking about him in the way we do if he didn't have a bunch of World Series? Because his numbers, he wasn't Bob Gibson.
No.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. He was the best pitcher on the
best team.
Yeah, the best team. Yeah. The most. Yeah. The Yankees are just a whole other animal compared to anything else in the history of baseball. They're just something else.
I mean, Whitey Ford is considered one of the greatest pitchers of all time, and he has 236 wins. Now, I'm not saying that's garbage, but we were just talking about a guy that had 355.
Right.
Yeah.
He does have a 2.7 ERA.
It's pretty gnarly.
It is nice. But he did make it to 3,000 innings, just barely, but he got there. He has 1,900 strikeouts.
That's pretty low.
That's very low. His wins and strikeouts are pretty low. I was talking about a guy that weighed 170 pounds. Wow, I didn't realize he was that small.
How long, did he just not play very long or what?
16 years.
That's kind of decent.
Yeah, so that's decent.
I wonder what the issue was there with some of the.
He only had one 200 strikeout season.
Well, he has an ERA of 2.7 for his career and only 1,900 strikeouts and 6. He's doing something right, but he's definitely not a like a power pitcher,
Right.
striking
Playing with
people
the
out.
Yankees, right?
Yeah,
I mean, when you have all those guys, the bat.
Well, if you have a 2.7 ERA, the
yeah.
bats aren't necessarily winning you the games.
I was just saying, like,
But-
he's doing something right. He's just not striking people out.
He's
Like-
he's making them hit grounders or something.
Yeah.
Oh, he's popping them up. I don't
He
know.
must have great.
But you have
command,
pitchers like
yeah.
that. There are non-strikeout pitchers.
But I mean,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
that's
I
a
mean,
lot of
Maddox is one.
that's a lot of what Glavine and Maddox did. They weren't power pitchers.
Yeah.
Like their strikeout numbers are so much higher than.
I mean, Maddox. You said Maddox squeaked over 3,000, but he pitched what 20,
I can't. I don't have him pulled up anymore. But it was 20
years or
some
something
years.
like
Yeah.
that.
So another 7 years.
I don't think I did talk about Glavin's numbers, but he also has 300 wins as a lefty, which puts him in pretty elite company. His ERA is 3.5. He has 4,400 innings and 2,600 strikeouts.
Did his ERA jump up a lot there at the end of his career? I mean, 3.5. I mean, nothing wrong with 3.5, but it's not really elite.
His last year in the league, he had an ERA of 5.5. The year before that, it was 4.4. His first year in the league, it was a 5.5. Yeah.
Okay. That was just one.
So, yeah. All right, so let's talk about a guy like Chipper Jones then. We switch over from the pitchers to the hitters. How differently does that affect Chipper's legacy? Because I don't think we look at position players like we do pitchers. I think pitchers are closer to quarterbacks. Like when you're the ace of a team that goes and wins the World Series, I mean, normally you're pitching like a ton of innings and you're, pitching 2, sometimes 3 times in a series and doing all that stuff. So we look at you differently, but don't get me wrong, World Series help hitters too. I mean, a la Derek Jeter, who we'll probably talk about in a minute. But what does Chipper Jones look like with 5 World Series?
I mean, we were debating him as possible one of the greatest third basemen of all time, and you add in those World Series.
I mean, we were trying to put him as the number 3 third baseman of all time. So essentially, we were saying he was number 4.
Right. Yeah.
With 1 World Series.
Yeah, and so you add a bunch more. I think that elevates his legacy quite a little bit.
That definitely helps out Chipper.
Well, even just in that argument with him and Brooks Robinson that we were having, Brooks Robinson, I think, has 2 or 3 World Series. Then in this case, Chipper ends up with more than him, which might have helped in that top 3 argument.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because didn't Brooks win some back in the day with the Orioles?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe he did.
I thought so.
Yeah, I think we talked about that during the Orioles Mount Rushmore episode.
I mean, it's just such a large amount of winning. It's just going to just.
It's not like it's just one
your legacy
2.
just goes to another level. Like with all those great guys,
Like they could have easily done what the Yankees did.
they should have.
Like they had the roster to do it.
They were the roster to compete with the Yankees during that time, and they fucked it up.
Yeah.
I mean,
Half the time they didn't even make it there.
Well, here's the thing: is they went at it the opposite way of the Yankees. The Yankees were mashing their way to World Series by hitting bunches of home runs, and their offense was breaking records and things like that. The Braves went out and said, we're not going to let anybody score runs, and our offense is going to be good. Because, I mean, the Yankees also had some pitchers. I'm not saying they were just garbage pitchers, but their pitchers were good.
I think when they started, I mean, like you said, they always had some good pitchers, but there at the end, they had like Mussina, Pettit, and Clemens. But at the beginning, it wasn't like that.
Right, yeah, exactly. And the thing is that we were kind of talking about it earlier, it worked. You had Glavine, Smoltz, and Maddox going out there and giving up 0s, 1s for most of those big games and World Series games against the Yankees. But their bullpen imploded the one year. I don't know what happened the second year in the World Series. But Drew just said the second time they played the Yankees, those guys didn't give up any runs.
Yeah, he said at least Maddox pitched
Maddox
well.
said, let me pull him up.
So he only gave up a few runs in the whole series. Mm-hmm. Well, and I was noticing when Drew was listing off earlier what they did in the postseason. If I remember correctly, they met the Yankees in 2 World Series and lost.
Did, yeah.
And they lost to the eventual champion Marlins the other year.
Yep.
To go to the World Series. So they lost to the team that won the World Series at least 3 of those years.
Yeah.
And then they won themselves another year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, they're right on the cusp of beating the team that wins the World Series. They're just falling short because of some, I mean, sounds like the bullpen, but.
In, whatchamacallit, 1999 when they played the Yankees again, Maddox's ERA is 2. Schmaltz is 3, and Glavins is 4.
Mm.
And then
So-
In the World Series or in the entire playoffs?
the World Series.
Gotcha.
They lose 4-0. They get swept.
Oh. They
They
got
got
swept?
They got swept. They lose game 1, 4-1, 7-2, 6-5, 4-1.
So was the bullpen again? I mean, it does sound like the starters were giving up a little more this time, but if Smoltz is in the 3s and Maddox is in the 2s, I mean, there's 2 quality starts.
But in those 4 games, 2 of them they only scored 1 run, and 1 they only scored 2 runs.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I mean,
maybe
in
the
3
off-
games
two-
they scored 4 runs.
2 games. Yeah, they scored 1.
of course, by
1 run.
99, the 99 Yankees
here's-
are pretty.
Well, Andrew
insane,
Jones goes 1 of 13 for the series.
Ooh.
Chipper goes 3 of 13 for the series. Brian Jordan goes 1 of 13. Ryan Klesko goes 2 of 12.
Wow.
That's rough.
I'm just looking at the guys that had the most at bats. Brett Boone goes 7 of 13. Other than him, everyone else is below 3.
Yikes.
So there's absolutely 0 batting from that. That doesn't help.
Aren't the 99 Yankees like ridiculously loaded though?
I'll give you some stats right here. Roger Clemens' ERA in that World Series, 1.1. David Cohn's ERA in that World Series, 0.
Oh, wow.
David Cohn's a Cy Young guy.
Yeah.
He threw a perfect game. He was a beast for a while. And Rivera won the MVP of that series.
The closer?
Closer. He had a 0 ERA. He had a win and 2 saves.
Wow. In 4 games, he had a win and 2 saves.
That's
Closer
ridiculous.
got the
And
MVP.
no
Yeah.
runs. That's pretty good.
Was he doing extra? Was he pitching a lot of extra innings?
4 2/3.
Each of the starters for the Braves pitched 7 innings in their game.
Yeah.
Now, listen to this one. Andy Pettit had an ERA of 12.
Wow.
So I'm going to say that's the game they lost 5-6 maybe, or 5-7, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who all was batting for the Yankees then? I mean, we know Jeter.
Darryl Strawberry's there.
We know Bernie Williams and Posada, right? Who else we got?
Scott Brocious was there.
Chuck Knobloch.
Joe Girardi, Chuck Knobloch would have been starting. Knobloch and Brocious would have been second base and third base. Jeter at short. Tino Martinez would have been first base.
Tino was really good.
Yeah, he was. Paul O'Neill would have been in right. Posada was behind the plate. Strawberry in left and Bernie in center.
It's pretty
Yeah,
nice.
there you go.
Yeah, that's pretty
Some
nice.
really nice players in there.
Mm-hmm.
With Roger Clemens and Andy Pettit, and who was the other guy you said? The third one?
David Cohn.
David Cohn. Was David Wells there at that time?
No, not on this team.
Was that
Unless he
before
didn't make the playoffs roster or something. But
Oh,
he
I
was
doubt
there
it.
for one of their World Series
Because
runs.
he throws like a no-hitter as a Yankee or
Yeah.
does something. I just didn't remember if he had left yet or not. He could have been gone. I was just curious. And then they have Rivera, obviously. Is Musina there yet, or is Musina not there till later?
Mussina doesn't get there until like 2002. He doesn't win any World Series with them.
He doesn't win any of them.
Uh,
Oh, that sucks.
remember old John Rocker? I forgot what John
Oh,
Rocker,
yeah.
like crazy relief pitcher for the Braves.
Uh-huh.
It was like fighting people all the time and like doing crazy stuff.
Was he like kind of like a? Was he like kind of taller, or was he short?
I don't remember how tall he was off the top of my head,
I was
but
thinking of like a. I don't know. I'm thinking.
say
of
he's
that guy.
6'4".
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's go to the opposite side of this. What does this do to Jeter?
So you take 2 of his World Series away?
Or
Or
4?
do you want to take them all away? If the Braves beat him all those.
Well, he gets the one later on in the
You-
mid
you get
2000s.
one-
He can keep
yeah,
that
you
one
keep that one and lose the other 4. Lose the 490s ones.
to the Braves.
Well, we were giving the Braves 4 more.
Yeah, so
So
And they meet them twice, so automatically 2 are gone. It's just
so let's just say Jeter has 1 World Series.
Okay.
it's at the end of his career.
Well, and, I mean, he's known as Mr. Clutch or whatever coming through.
The Mr. November.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I watched a thing about this one day. Actually, they did this whole breakdown on Derek Jeter, and they're like, Derek Jeter was not clutch. Derek Jeter did not do anything extra in the playoffs. Derek Jeter was the exact same player in the playoffs he was in the regular season. That was what was cool about him. Was
Right.
the pressure never got to him.
right. He
Like-
just was the same.
He was the same guy in the playoffs he was in the regular season. Like, he was a guy who was going to hit around 300. He was going to hit a home run every once in a while. He was going to, be smart on the base paths. He was going to play below average defense.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess here's what I would say. He was still the shortstop of the Yankees for 20 years. And he would have won a World Series as a Yankee.
Like we said earlier.
And he has 3,000 hits. So he would still be a Hall of Famer.
Oh yeah.
But like we said, he wouldn't be this beloved Yankee because
Part of his-
you can't just win one. as
Part
a
of his
Yankee.
Right.
aura would be gone.
Yes.
Like he had
Yeah.
a mystical mystique about him of
Right. I mean, let's be honest. If he didn't have 5 World Series, he never would have come up in our Mount Rushmore conversation for the Yankees.
yeah.
No.
Well, here's another thought. If he doesn't win those early World Series, is he still a Yankee?
That's true.
Do they still put
That's a
that
good
team together
question.
in 09?
Or does A-Rod play shortstop?
Right. And they move on. I mean, if they're not winning World Series, they may move players around. The Yankees
True,
aren't patient.
Well, especially
Wow.
back then when Steinbrenner was still alive.
Yes.
He
was not
He was a
patient.
savage. Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing.
He was going for it.
We talked about the Dodgers, whatever episode that was, and them buying all these players recently. That was the Yankees every offseason.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we just talked about earlier. They won like two or three World Series in like 3-4 years, and they went out and got Roger Clemens and added to it.
Yeah.
Right.
For whatever you think of the man, he was willing to do whatever it took to bring in more talent to win. I mean, talking about Steinbrenner. Guys, being a Red Sox fan, in the early 2000s, we started spending a bunch of money. And people were like giving me a hard time about it. You guys are turning into the Yankees. I'm like, no, we're trying to beat the Yankees.
Right.
Like, we can't spend like a third of the money of them and try and compete with them in our own division every year. Like, we weren't going to be able to do it. That's why I kind of feel for the NL West teams right now.
Right, yeah.
Like,
Well,
Trying
you
to
know
keep up with the Dodgers.
the Diamondbacks and the Rockies aren't going to do it.
right.
I hate to tell you, neither one of them are going to do it.
So you're looking at
The Giants.
the Giants
Probably
and
not the Padres.
not the Well, the Padres tried last year. Remember, they gave out all those crazy contracts
Look what
last year,
happened.
and now they're selling them off.
One got
So
caught.
Didn't do much good.
One got caught doing roids.
yeah, that was Tatis.
Yeah.
And they just traded Soto to the fucking Yankees. And
oh, I forgot about that.
yeah,
Mm.
They still have Machado.
and Bogarts. What about the rest of these Yankees? I mean, is there anybody? I mean, that would take away Clemens' World Series wins. He wouldn't have any.
He's just known for being a good pitcher.
Yeah.
That took roids.
I mean, would we even, if without these World Series wins, would we even know guys like Jorge Posada and
Bernie Williams.
and Paul O'Neill
Nope.
and Chuck Knobloch and
They-
Scott
They
Brocious?
sure as hell wouldn't be household names too.
Yeah.
Just you're
Right,
a
like, I mean-
baseball fan.
Me being a Red Sox fan, I would probably know a lot of these guys' names because playing them all the
Saw 'em
damn
all the
time.
time, yeah.
But like you guys being like Cardinal fans and Reds fans and stuff, like you probably
Yeah.
wouldn't.
I definitely wouldn't.
Yeah,
I wasn't alive for it. So
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, it'd be like if if the Cardinals back in the day won 5 World Series like in a row, then like people would probably know the name J.D. Drew, but
Right.
they don't because they didn't win anything. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's always players like that on. That always happens.
Yeah.
Guys that are there for the championships, and you know who they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Big Shot
I
Bob.
think guys become fan
Yeah.
favorites.
Everyone knows who Big Shot Bob is.
Well, I mean, we talk about this in every sport. We talk about like the '70s Steelers.
Yeah.
We know a shitload of those guys' names, but not
Right.
because they put up elite numbers,
No, just because they won.
right? Or the '60s Celtics.
Yes.
Like we could probably name that entire roster. Like 9 of them have gotten in the Hall of Fame now, but not because they put up great numbers. It's not like, like some of those '60s Celtics guys got in the Hall of Fame before like Elgin Baylor did. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, but it's because they have like 8 championships.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that isn't it kind of like that in hockey. The Canadians at the beginning,
Oh yeah, the Canadians.
they won like
everything.
8 first 10 Stanley Cups or something crazy like that. So I'm sure a bunch of those guys. Yeah, because that's just wild.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's going to be interesting to me is how the Brady Belichick Patriots are going to be remembered. Because other than Brady, it doesn't look like any of them are getting into the Hall. People in 20 years, 30 years from now might think that Brady drug a bunch of bums to championships because none of them are going to get in the Hall.
Right.
Like they're not even getting votes.
Yeah, there's a couple.
I mean, Moss is a Hall of Famer, but he played like 2 years there.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
Isn't-
Richard Seymour
yeah,
just got in.
Seymour's in.
yeah, there you go. There was one.
He's one of the only ones I can remember though.
Yeah, like-
Law get in.
Ty Law might have actually. He maybe.
I know
don't-
Seymour
know.
got
But-
in when we were there.
But again, Ty Law only played there for like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, but he was there. He was there for Super Bowls
It-
though.
Yeah.
What they're gonna see is they're gonna see Brady, Gronk, and Belichick.
Yeah.
Gronk will get in.
Yes.
He's not
Oh, yeah.
eligible yet, but he'll get in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll see that.
They
But
had a
some
lot
of
of like borderline guys like Rodney Harrison and William McGinnis and Vince Wilfork, who were like legit Pro Bowl guys. Maybe made 1 or 2 All Pros in certain years. Have like really really nice career stats, but they're just not all time great stats. You know,
Right.
no one's gonna remember who Vince Wilfork was.
Vince Wilfork was he was really good.
He was a beast.
But 20 years, does anyone know who he was?
Probably not.
But
Yeah.
I always remember. He's-
Well, when you go look up at his stats, it'll say like 32 career sacks. You couldn't run on him.
No.
You could not run with Vince
You had-
Wilfork in the middle.
and you had to put at least
Ever.
2 guys on him. There's no
Yeah,
way you're.
That's the other thing too. He didn't gather a bunch of tackles either, but he had like 2, sometimes 3 guys trying to move him off his spot.
I bet if you take him off those Patriots teams, they're not as good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was easily one of their best defensive players for many. Ask Bob. Bob
Yeah.
will tell you. Bob loves Vince
Well,
Wilfork.
here's the thing. As much as we all have problems with Belichick, he is so great at taking defensive players and being like, hey, this is what you do really well. That's all I'm going to ask you to do.
Right. Maximize what you're good at.
Right. He didn't ask Vince Wilfork, hey, I need you to have a 12-sack season. You know, he didn't ask Teddy Bruschi to go cover slot receivers. You know, he didn't ask Rodney Harrison to go cover receivers. You know, even though he played safety, that was not his job. That's not what he was good at. You know, he wasn't asking, guys like Ty Law and one of those other great corners that he had, hey, I need you to come down in the box and hit.
You know, the
Yeah.
funny part is you were talking about how Rodney Harrison couldn't cover. He's the one that gave up the David Tyree catch.
I know. yeah. And he beat the shit out of David Tyree.
flag. Goddamn thing.
they're not throwing it away.
That was.
He caught the ball. That's all that
I
matters.
could have got real vulgar right there, and I stopped myself. But that was what he did to that man on the way down. Was should have went to jail and threw away the
Oh,
man here. You do that to a man on the street, you go to jail.
yeah. All right. Well, is there any other things we need to talk about this Yankees Braves swap here? Is there any?
No.
I think we hit it from a lot of
Yeah.
angles, actually.
Did pretty good.
I guess the only one more thing I want to ask is, how do we view the Braves franchise differently?
We're not.
How many World Series do they have now?
Well, what? They won one recently. They won one. How many old? They got one. Old,
Eddie Matthews
Hank-
had 2.
So what? They have 4 as a franchise.
Well, Spawn had one too. Were they together?
Probably for a little bit, I would imagine.
I
I don't remember
would-
Spawn's years off the top of my head.
I'll look it up.
I bet they were together for at least part of it.
Yeah, but we know they won one in the 90s, and they won one just a couple years ago.
Yeah. They have 4.
They have 4. Okay, so if they
1914, 1957, 95, and 2021.
so instead of 4, they would have 8,
Yeah.
which puts them what,
So they double
like
it.
4th all time?
Yeah, it's Yankees,
Cardinals with the A's.
A's.
Well, the Sox have 8 or 9,
The Giants are up there too, aren't they?
and the Dodgers have.
Phillies have got several too.
I guess we need to look this up.
Listen to this. The Braves have 4 World Series titles, but they have 18 National League pennants.
Oh, wow. That is a large difference.
They win 8. They've been 18 times and they won 4 of them.
That is insane, actually. That's bad.
All right.
That's really bad.
The Yankees have 27. The Cardinals have 11. The Red Sox have 9.
They're tied.
They're tied with the Athletics, who also have 9. And then the Giants have 8, so they would be tied with the Giants and fifth place all time, ahead of the Dodgers, who have 7.
Yeah.
And that puts them in pretty elite company as a franchise.
Oh yeah.
By the way, somebody else we didn't talk about, that would give Bobby Cox 5 World Series.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me too.
You all went through the curse of the Bambino and still have 9?
Yeah, Babe Ruth won, what, 3 or 4 with us?
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And we've won 4 since 2000. We won 2004,
Well, I know you've won a
2007,
handful
2013,
lately, but-
2018.
You know, it's
So
crazy.
they won 4. They would have won 4 before that, or no, 5 before that.
You all went, what, like 80 years? without
86
winning?
years, yeah.
And then and you're
you
still
went
like
4.
3rd all time? That's crazy. I mean, it's kind of,
If it's not up at the
Kind of,
top,
yeah.
then you're at the bottom. Like there's
It's-
no
yeah.
like middle ground.
With the Red Sox, like, we win World Series and we don't win for a long time. We just pick one.
Yeah, then you got, like I said, the Dodgers have 7. The Pirates have 5. The Reds have 5.
But again, both those teams haven't won them in
Yeah.
a long time.
Yeah. The Braves and Tigers each have 4.
Tigers have 4.
The White Sox, Twins, Orioles, and Cubs all have 3.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, just, adding 4 more World Series just throws everything and everybody into another level,
Yeah.
into another stratosphere of iconicness.
All right. Well, I think that wraps up our what if. I hope you liked that one. We thought that one would be good. We appreciate you emailing us and giving us some opinions, answering some questions, sending us some questions, whatever you got. Email us at
Sports the NEMO Way at gmail.com.
and comment, subscribe, rate, and review. Thanks for tuning in to Sports the NEMO Way.